was scrolling through my social media, and I saw a clip from a fitness influencer. A fitness influencer. Somebody who influences fitness. On CNN last night, talking about slavery. Talking about white people in slavery. And this fitness influencer on CNN on a panel with a congressman, with an established journalist, with others who worked in administrations, babbling about slavery and putting out talking points that I think only had to come from social media memes.
Right.
Listen to a bit of what this fitness influencer named Jillian Michaels said.
Have you looked at some of the things that are being reviewed?
Slavery was a bad thing that was to talk about.
Okay.
Like, he's
not whitewashing slavery. So
he's not?
He's not. No,
okay.
He's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you look
at slavery,
let's talk about the fact
slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people
do you know who was the first race to try to end slavery? Well, what's controversial?
I'm very surprised.
This is an extraordinary exercise in historical revisionism.
I'm really surprised.
Do you realize that,
Jillian, I'm surprised that you're trying to litigate who was the beneficiary of slavery and who was not.
What I'm trying to tell you is that
in the context of American history,
okay.
In the context of American history, what are you saying is incorrect by saying that
it
was white people oppressing black people?
Every single thing is like, oh, no, this is all because white people bad. And that's just not the truth. Like, for example,
Jillian Michaels needs some exercises for her brain. She needs some ab exercises for her frontal lobe. What she said was so disgusting. And I have to, I'm assuming she had to have known that was wrong. I mean, I'm assuming that you are intentionally putting out that kind of bullshit because it feeds into some right-wing propaganda talking points. Maybe your fitness bullshit ain't working that well, so you're looking for a new gig, and for some reason CNN platforms you. I want to break down some things. Folks have been saying this for years, that less than 2% of white Americans own slaves. Even if it was the case, even if that was true, which it's not, it doesn't matter because slavery was a massive wealth generator for white Americans in the South.
Period.
According to a Bloomberg article, I'm quoting Bloomberg now, and I quoted this in my book, The Grift, the value of slavery was worth more than the banks, railroads, and factories combined in the North. That was the value of slavery. It was an economic bonanza for the South. So even if you believe that 2% number, which is bullshit, but even if you did, it was an infrastructure of exploitation and white supremacy on the backs of black people. That's what it was. But the 2% number is bullshit. And let me give you the exact source. This is according to the National Bureau of Economic Research. In 1860, 27% of Southern households owned enslaved people. Now, that's just in the South.
Yeah.
But then when you broke it down in each state, it was nearly half. In Mississippi, 49% of Southern households own black people. The South was the portfolio for human bondage.
Yeah.
So here you are out there putting out this ridiculous, this is like neo-Confederate bullshit on CNN. It's so deeply offensive. It's offensive to our black history, to our American history. It's offensive to the legacy of John Brown, to the legacy of Thaddeus Stevens, to the legacy of Charles Sumner. names I'm sure this fitness influencer doesn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the Civil War, there were 4 million black people in slavery. 4 million. And for over the 250 years of slavery on paper, the estimate is 6 to 7 million were enslaved in total. That's a low estimate. By the time the Civil War ends, 4 million black folks were in slavery. So why don't you let go of your 2% bullshit number and focus on the people who were in bondage?
Yeah.
What a deeply offensive, disgusting thing to say on national television. It's just vile to me. It's an easy fact check. It's wrong. And I tell people this: white supremacy, it begins in the home and solidified in the schools and then etched in stone in media. Shameful, ignorant. She should apologize, but she won't, because now you can lie in our history. You can remix our history. You can have the current president now looking into the National Museum of African American History and deciding what should be there. This is propaganda machines.
Yeah.
What happened in 1930s Russia? 1930s Germany. Look what happened in Russia when Putin gets into power. It's straight propaganda machines. Shame on her. Go ahead, Reese Colbert.
Jillian Michaels is a piece of shit. You know, I do appreciate this new age racism, because we used to find out how white people, how bad they were when they were burning crosses and shit on our lawns. Now they just on CNN like, oh, it's Wednesday, I'm on CNN, hi, I'm a racist. Like, what makes this even more insidious is the fact that she is raising a 15-year-old black girl that she adopted from Haiti. Obviously, she knows nothing about Haitian history. She clearly don't know nothing about black history. So if she did step her motherfucking ass in the museum, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, from which I am an ambassador, and I have been part of the director circle, meaning how much I've donated to the museum. I've been there dozens of times. And to Jillian Michaels and every dumbass like her, let me explain something to you. The National Museum of African American History and Culture is about black people. It's not about white people. So for anybody to walk out of that museum and say, poor white people, look at how poorly white people are treated for having this history, you are fucking demented mentally. You are an insidious, vile person who is revealing to the world that you do not see black people as human beings. Because as a human being, your takeaway from what is displayed in that museum, and it's not the slavery museum, it's not the white people are bad museum, it is a museum that highlights the perseverance, the ingenuity, the contributions, and the tribulations of African American people in the United States.
Yes.
Regardless of how many white people owned slaves, which I don't even like that, there were white people who held people captive violently through multiple generations,
murder,
through oppression.
Yeah.
These were not, you cannot own people. You held our ancestors captive. So for any fucking person to walk away thinking that the problem with what they saw was that white people are called out, there's something wrong with you. You don't seem to have, it doesn't hit a nerve with you. The abuse, the carnage that was inflicted on people. Mind you, the story that there's a small portion that's dedicated to the people who were enchained, shackled,
the first
and didn't even make it here. The people that died in the Middle Passage. I was in Ghana a couple of years ago, and I stood where white people, I'm going to call a thing a fucking thing. White people felt comfortable having church below black people in bondage, in captivity. Black people the museum do not have a responsibility to comfort white people at the expense of accurately educating people on our history. The same way that y'all motherfuckers didn't feel like white people back then had an obligation to do the barest minimum and that's treat people like human beings. Do you know how uncomfortable it was to go through the middle fucking passage? How uncomfortable it was to be held captive? That was uncomfortable, bitch. Not going through a museum exhibit. Oh, look at how bad white people have been towards black people. That's so mean against white people. That makes you uncomfortable. It pales in comparison. It should be traumatic to every person to walk through that museum and see what this country has done to millions of human beings. It shouldn't just be uncomfortable. It should be traumatic. It should be life-altering. It should be conscious shifting to experience that. The fact that none of that pierced your consciousness, there's something really, really, really decrepit morally about you. And the only thing that you did in that moment was reveal that to everybody who watched that show and everybody who's going to see the clip, how morally decrepit you are, how you could have very well been the kind of person who held Black people captive. It's that kind of moral decrepitness, that inability to see the humanity in others who are not white, that allowed for that to continue for centuries. If anybody wonders how did they do that? How could they look at people? How could people have stood? Right. It's because of people like Jillian Michaels, who with a straight face said that. And who will probably look at the backlash she's gotten and play victim again.
Yeah.
Because if you
canceled, I'm a fitness influencer.
Yeah.
You know what it is? My grandfather would say this, who was a Black man from the Jim Crow South of Virginia. A hit dog will holler.
Yeah.
Jillian, you're hollering.
Yeah.
You're hollering, that white folks feel uncomfortable.
And it's the same reason why we're still talking about fucking Confederate monuments. Because white people who agree with slavery feel like they're the victims. They don't see anything wrong with what happened. The only error, the only wrong, the only offense here is that white people are forced to confront what other white people did. That's crazy to me. That's crazy. I wouldn't want to admit that. I would be embarrassed, but I know that she's not. But I would just want to emphasize, if anybody ever questions how this went on for centuries, what kind of depraved people, animals, felt like it was okay to hold captive newborns. And I'm just talking about the captivity part, the violence. You can talk about the rape. You can talk about you've already talked about the economic labor that has been extracted from Black people. And everybody wants to look at the discrepancies as evidence of some sort of meritocracy on the part of white people, when that is just evidence of the residual impacts of trillions of dollars of labor being stolen from Black people. This is a prime example of how that was possible. Every person in America should be required to spend multiple days in the National Museum of African American History and Culture, not just to see the horrors that our ancestors survived, and some of our ancestors didn't, but to see all of the contributions that we have made.
In Germany, they learn about the Nazis when they're in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
They learn it immediately to not repeat it.
Yeah.
And that right there is the foolishness. So I was just disgusted. It was wrong. It was insulting. I paid for this education that I have. I shouldn't have had to pay for it. And she should not be on television babbling about what she thinks our history is. That's part of the problem.
And can I just say, y'all motherfuckers can't be that ashamed of slavery. You can't be that fucking ashamed, because this administration, which Jillian Michaels raggedy ass supports, funky ass, It's all about restoring Confederate monuments, renaming ships that have been named after actual heroes back to Confederate names. So your motherfuckers ain't ashamed of slavery. You don't like those enslavers, those demons, those animals not being celebrated. That's what you have a problem with. You're okay with those people being venerated, but you're not okay with the truth of the horrors that they inflicted on others being part of the story. Well, you can't have one without the other, motherfucker. So miss me with the white tears and the victim and all, y'all are just so mean against white people because y'all have no problem with these same white people being celebrated.
But you know what? She'll care when they overturn same-sex marriage. Then she'll
that's next up. That's next up.
She'll be whining. Oh my gosh. They overturned same-sex marriage. I can't believe they did this. Oh my. Then she'll care, because here's where we are. Nobody cares until it impacts them.
Yeah.
Nobody has empathy till it impacts them. And once you're rich, privileged, fitness influencer self, once you're impacted, then you'll care. And then no one's going to care for you.
Well, we don't care for you now either, motherfucker. The only reason why we even talk about your dumb ass is because you was on CNN and you had no business being on there.